Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show, sponsored by Indigo Communications. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Tam McManus and Alison McConnell here with us on this Monday to look back over the weekend's Premiership results and look ahead to the week in football and what's in prospect. You can give us your point of view as well. And if you want, if you've got a bit of time, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and you'll get all the notifications of our unique video content. There's lots of things that might catch your attention. Dream teams from the guys picking the best players they've ever played with. We've thrown a few in ourselves from Ali and myself, and lots of other special guests. We've got one-to-ones there with Martin and Neil, James McPake, and also Jamie Murphy in there too. Lots of things that will attract your attention in that game, where we've got various players talking about one of their favourite games of all time. And Monday to Friday you get the live show as well, and if you download the app, it has all the latest breaking stories. Thanks for everybody persevering with the app. We just had a few technical issues last week, got it all sorted out. Every breaking story's there, and you can watch the programme live on the app on your phone as well, so you don't need to miss it. There you are, Ruffy. There was a time when we didn't need to worry about that, because you had your old 3210 Nokia and it only had snakes and ladders on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but things have moved on. Too fast for me, actually. But
yeah,
we're here, we're there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're everywhere. So, Rangers managed a 2-0 win over Dundee United off the back of what a lot of people thought maybe would have been a day of being tired after all the exertions of midweek, but they're just on this wave of enthusiasm, emotion, adrenaline. It's all there. I thought they played some lovely football yesterday, Ruffy.
Yeah, they did. I think Dundee United, I've been disappointed. I know Dundee United have been getting young guys a chance during it, but I've been disappointed with them this year. I thought they were going to really, step up and be a better opposition, but they're not. They don't go and attack. They have a format where they don't want to get heavily beaten, right or wrongly, and they went there. And the worrying thing for me is Rangers and Celtic now are playing these teams, and that possession of 75% in a game isn't a good reading. It means that they're so far ahead in every aspect, and if they score goals, they're going to win games.
Yeah, but let's not be insular in our thinking here. I mean, Alison, in other major leagues, Manchester City can get through a game in the English Premier League with 75% possession.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look back to how Dundee United played at Ibrox back in December, they had a very young team, they had a lot of COVID issues. I thought they seemed to have more aggression and purpose about them in that game. I don't know if there was just a sense of getting to the end of the season and just almost feeling as though it's too difficult a challenge to come away from Ibrox with the win, just given where Rangers have been for the last few weeks. But I thought there was a palpable lack of conviction about the performance yesterday. I think you're right to just maybe expect a bit more.
Yeah, the good element of Scottish football is the Rangers fans were there in numbers, sombreros, beach balls, you name it. That's when I think the positive aspect of supporters comes out.
Yeah, well, obviously they're going to do that. They're in a European final, which doesn't happen very often. I can remember Celtic a few years ago going to Ibrox with the sombreros, and you've got to take it back when the shoe's in the other foot.
Yeah,
and that's football. That's what the banter's all about. And Rangers supporters loving it at the minute. In the European final, the atmosphere around the stadium's probably brilliant. Looking forward to that final. And listen, I think they cruised the game yesterday. They made a lot of changes, but Rangers have got a strong squad. It was great to see, as I said before, some of the younger guys getting a chance. Lowry, King, McCann, they're all really talented players who've been doing well in the B team, so good to see them getting an opportunity. The goalkeeper, I thought he should have got sent off. I don't know how we talk about that, but that's a shocking tackle and for the penalty.
Yeah.
He flies out, Ruffy, and nearly
with his legs, Segrist, yeah.
Very dangerous tackle. Yellow card.
I think decapitates maybe a wee bit.
That was a bad tackle. Goalkeeper can fly in it, and then the second goal, great play from Aaron Ramsey. So, no, Rangers, listen, the league's done. I think Rangers are just looking to try and give people an opportunity and keep them ticking over until the big game, the final. Yeah,
no surprise when asked about Celtic. Giovanni van Bronckhorst not really interested in talking about Celtic. He said, look, we've got two big cup finals, and I think that's where the focus is on. I think they realise the title is gone. It's all about players trying to play to their maximum at the moment to see if they can produce something special in 2 special days.
Yeah, I think he has quite an interesting dilemma in how he approaches the final 2 league games, and whether or not you entirely rest players in preparation for 2 hugely demanding games that frame your season, essentially. I'm sure players would be desperate to play in the last couple of games, just so that you're ready to go and compete against Frankfurt and then against Hearts in the Scottish Cup final. I think from a managerial point of view, you would maybe just want to refresh the squad, just give them a break, especially guys that have been playing those the semi-final and the quarter-final and then getting into the Scottish Cup quarter-final and then going to Celtic Park. I think there's a few that have really had a gruelling few weeks that you might want to just sit down, just give them a break before going into 2 huge games next week.
Yeah, and great news that Alec Lowry has signed a contract extension. I think that's the right thing to do, Ruffy. I like to see young players. You know, I think we were all gutted when you'd been talking constantly about Billy Gilmore. Then he goes away down south. Chances to play few and far between. And now Alec Lowry's decided to commit himself to Rangers, and Rangers will see him blossom, hopefully.
Yeah, it must have been a hard decision for the boy, because I believe there were English clubs interested in him as well. But in his stage of his career, he wants to have game time. So it depends what the Rangers manager has said to him. You know, you will get game time next year, and they've got to convince these young lads now to stay. And I don't know what other temptation there would be. Obviously, a good contract as well. But at the end of the day, that young boy, to progress his career, needs to play games.
Yeah, and of course everybody now in the last couple of games will be looking to him and saying, okay, Ross County on Wednesday, and then away to Hearts at Tynecastle, playing for a place, a starting place would be phenomenal for some players. I think maybe Giovanni van Bronckhorst already knows what he'd like as his starting 11 for the game in Seville.
It's amazing how managers always say that, you know, there's places to be played for, you know, there's places up for grabs for the cup final, and the team's always the same. You know, by the end of that as well, I remember Alec McLeish used to say that a few times at Hibs. It was always the same team. I think he'll know his team. If they're all fit, he'll know his team, you know, along the lines of the semi-final. Against Leipzig. I think the next 2 games they'll just try and play as many players as they can, give opportunities to a few younger boys, a few squad players. That game against Hearts could be 218 teams the week before the cup final. You know, that a game that means very, very little to either team. So I think you'll see a lot of young boys in both teams getting played that game. So no, I think the Rangers are just trying to tick over and keep everybody fit and fresh for the 2 finals.
Yeah, and the one thing that's happened over the last few days, Ruffy, certainly since the game that secured their place in the final against Leipzig, is your phone. My phone has been inundated with Rangers mates, and some Rangers mates of mine that I haven't heard from in a long while, who are now texting me saying, by hook or by crook, can you get me tickets? And also, I spoke to one of my pals about a couple of hours ago, and I said, are you going? And he said, yes, but I'm driving down to Leeds, I'm going here, I'm flying over there, and I thought to myself, wow, what a nightmare trip, you know. And I finished it off by saying, and have you got a ticket? And he went, no.
I think we should run a competition to see who's the best route to Seville.
Oh,
you know, that would be fun, because I was a taxi driver last night, and he's telling me how he's get there, and it's unbelievable. Yeah. You know, I think they're all getting to a point, and then they don't know whether they're maybe going to Faro, and then they don't know how to get there after that, and it's just thrown up in the air.
Ruffy, there's a guy going on a lawnmower. I mean, calm your jets. There's a guy going to Seville on a lawnmower with his Rangers scarf on. You'll just see a line of freshly cut grass across Europe. But by the way, I mean, that's the joy of it all. Get there with your mates, go out. If you're lucky enough sometimes to get a ticket, great. But enjoy it. Enjoy what is a beautiful city.
It's a stunning city. I think you never know if you're going to have the opportunity again. I think a European final feels very unique. It feels like a chance to savour it. I think you want to maximise it. I think if they're to go on and win it, and I think you'd have to say now that they look as though they're favourites to go and do so, given the quality of teams that they've beaten along the way, then I think you'd want to be there. You'd want to, whether it's in the stadium or whether it's just in the city, I think you'd want to be part of it. Yeah,
can I just say congratulations to Rangers women who won the first ever SWPL title. It's for them fantastic. Glasgow City have been well used to winning it, 14 years on the trot. But I think the general consensus, certainly among some of the former players and pundits now, is The sands are changing, the times are changing. There's a shift in the power base here, and maybe Glasgow City's days at the top are over.
Yeah, I think it's because of the investment that Celtic and Rangers are putting into the women's side, the women's team. I think that Glasgow City have had it all their own way for the last 14 years. Hibs, I think, have been one of the stronger teams as well. But if you're putting the investment and getting the sponsorship, which Celtic Rangers are, and they're full time, they're signing international players now. So the league as a whole is getting a lot stronger, certainly a lot more competitive. And you've got to say fair play to Rangers. I know Big Malky Thompson well. He's my youth coach at Hibs, very good coach, good guy as well. So congratulations to Malky for winning that as well. But no, it's a really strong league now, and they're starting to attract a lot of players internationally. Yeah,
just as a little footnote, Ruffy, you said you've not been too happy with Dundee United. They're in fourth, they're a point ahead of Motherwell with 2 games left. If they get European football, they'll be well happy with it. But by the way, can I just say something? Over the course of the year, spent some money on wages, Dundee United.
There they are. I mean, I don't know the financial side of what's going on, but
that's unusual. You usually get a big mouth about it.
Hearsay is if they bring somebody in, they're on a good wage, a far bigger wage than what they're getting in supporters anyway. So it'll be interesting to see when they're balanced, the books come out. But at the end of the day, we keep talking about it. If you're successful on the park, sometimes you get away with the money that you spend.
Yes.
And if they were getting to Europe, I agree with Alison. I thought if I had the chance to get into Europe, I'd had a go at Rangers a lot more ago than what they did. You can get a point, try and get a point, because it's so tight. But, I think he keeps, when he gets, Tam's a pally of the manager, he keeps on saying about the young players and giving them a chance, and that's great in any team. But you've got to win things or get places.
Yeah, listen. The proof's in the pudding here. If they get places, Alison, the way Scottish football is at the moment, Rangers have got a real chance to get into pot 1 in the Champions League if they win the Europa League. Celtic automatically in the group stages. Hearts automatically in group stage football in Europe next season. Could be even better for them. If you get a Dundee United into the group stage, you're talking £2 and £3 million. This is changing the landscape of our game again. Money's coming in. Obviously, we're not going to have any major sponsor for the league because obviously most of the clubs are a shower of backstabbing lunatics. But other than that,
yeah, I think it's so important. I think for
is that
one,
too strong?
It raises the profile of the league, but it also brings in money which you would hope would be reinvested into the playing squad, which elevates the standard of the league. I think crucially, when you go into European competition, you want clubs to go and acquit themselves well. You don't want to go and be in there to make up the numbers or go in just to think it's a free lunch. I think when you go in, you want to compete and you want to present yourself in a good light. I think that's very important. I think when you consider too the way that the coefficient is worked out and how it's divided, I think you don't want to go on and come out with 3 or 4 year teams on the back of heavy defeats.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine it, Ruffy, over and above European football? If we could get a sponsor for VAR, if you got 4 or 5 sponsors onto the league, can you imagine the money that would be in our game? It would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, I know I've been bleating on about it all year, but if only they could all suddenly embrace a new structure to get lots more sponsorship money in, embrace a kind of a more really polished attitude to marketing the product, a lot of the clubs could wipe out any financial worries by coming together as a collective. It would be fantastic.
Well, I don't know if I've missed something in the last maybe 2 or 3 months, but what happened to that committee we had who were going to go away and think of how we were going to double the money and everything? What was the outcome of that? Was that not the American, some of the American owners? There was 4 or 5 of them.
Was that the Ron Gordon thing?
Yeah. And then they were going to tell us how we could 100% up in the money with things. Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. I think they WhatsApped the group and cancelled the meeting, Ruffy. You didn't get that memo, It'll come through eventually. Anyway, apart from anything else, big couple of weeks coming up, especially for Rangers. Couple of cup wins that could absolutely transform the season. And when you think of the merchandise and the marketing alone off the back of winning the Europa League, it would be absolutely colossal. So We will find out. We will follow it all the way here on the Football Show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on that. The team who are on the verge of winning the title are Celtic, 4-1 against Hearts. Didn't start off according to plan because Ellis Sims took full advantage. They hadn't read the script and Hearts took the lead.
Yeah, they did, and I thought it was going to be a long afternoon for Celtic after that. I think he took his goal really well. Hearts started well. First 5-10 minutes, I thought they were on the front foot and tried to get after Celtic. Great finish. And then you think, you know, as a title race kind of back on, but I think Celtic after that, once they got the equaliser, I think there was only one winner. They dominated the game the last hour, and some sparkling performances. I thought O'Reilly was exceptional. I thought he was one of his best games in a Celtic shirt. I thought he was superb. And Celtic ran out comfortable winners. Jota was excellent as well. So they'll be looking to get him tied up. You know, myself and Alison didn't think that was going to happen, but you know, there's starting to be more positive word coming out of Celtic that they could get him tied up on a permanent deal. Yeah,
Maeda has agreed to no longer be a loan signing. He's going to be permanent next season as well. There will be a huge, I think, bloodletting as Ruffy has managed to do at Partick Thistle and their crew of players that don't have a long-term future at Celtic. Some might go out on loan, but the majority will be obviously players that they'll try and punt to other clubs, Alison. But if you look at Jota, don't worry about being wrong about it. Jota's a surprise to all of us. I'm thinking £6.5 million.
I think if Celtic could get him for £6.5 million, he'd be delighted. I think the problem is really salary and how that's structured and what might be available to him elsewhere. I would still say it would be
touch
some distance away from being done. I don't
think too many players are on 30 grand a week at Celtic.
And not in Scottish football.
I think Scott Brown possibly would have been the last of that crew, because after the madness of the Mayalbys, the Baldas, the Suttons, the Larsons, they just cut it dramatically.
And Celtic won't alter that significantly, regardless of Champions League funds or anything. They won't waver from what their budget is. I think you know what the structure is there. They won't deviate from it. They'll stick to that. I still think there would be a bit of work to do with Jota. I thought last week, I think it would be inevitable that Celtic would say to Benfica that they would like to trigger the clause to keep him. I think the hard work then comes in the steps that follow that, in trying to come to a negotiation with the player, knowing that there might be significant funds available to him elsewhere. And then also, if you can agree that, how you agree things like sell-on fees and what might come next. And as you know, I think there was talk about Benfica with a 30% sell-on clause, which I think would probably be quite steep in terms of what you pay out to get him and what you might recoup. So I think there's all sorts of different aspects to building a transfer and structuring the deal that take time. And I would just offer caution. I think there's probably still a bit of work to be done on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of Celtic fans would like to see Cameron Carter-Vickers as a deal that gets done. He's hugely impressive this season.
Yeah, he has been. You know, as Alison said, it's salaries. I don't know what salary would be on at Spurs. So whatever you're going to offer him has to be better than what he has. You know, I think the Japanese boys, I don't think they'd have been on a particularly big salary when they were playing in Japan or wherever they were, but because when they come to Celtic there'll be a better wage, so you've got them right away. With Jota again, the similar, I don't know wage he'd be on in Portugal, you know, so you've just got to give them a better deal than what they had. But I would have thought the enjoyment of playing in European football and playing in that stadium, 50,000, you know, would be enough. Unless there's something else on the table.
Yeah, well, I think over the last couple of weeks we've all agreed that lure of group stage guaranteed Champions League football is one of the huge attractions that Celtic can now dangle as a carrot in front of them. Of course, 4-1 the win. They still need another point because Rangers defeated Dundee United. They've got a far superior goal difference as well, and I think Ange Postecoglou is just hoping they can get it over the line on Wednesday sooner rather than later.
We're looking forward to Wednesday. You know, I said to the boys before the game that there are many ways you can finish something off. You know, go through that finishing tape, and you can collapse through it, or you can go through it at top speed. And you know, that's what we want to do. That's what we've been doing all year. And you know, we want to go hard on Wednesday, and then get back up here and go hard again in the last game.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou won the Scottish Football Writers Manager of the Year last day. I thought he spoke very well. I think he really gave a good account of himself, good bit of humour in there as well. I think possibly the only person that would, as we all agreed, give him a run for his money would have been Dick Campbell. Is that fair?
I think you could make a case for Giovanni van Bronckhorst too. It's a very unique season that you have both Celtic fans and Rangers fans quite happy with what the outcome could be. I think you.
But do you judge it? Do you judge it encompassing all the cups, Europe as well?
I think if you win a European trophy, I think you would have to probably come into some.
No, I get that. But the managers in the PFA vote. The 42 managers, they vote for a manager of the year. And it's really kind of based on the domestic, you know. Do you, as you know, the Scottish football writers vote on the basis of
I think it should be
all-encompassing?
Yeah, I think it should be a league campaign, but I think realistically it's very difficult to separate. I think if you win a European trophy, you are assured of a very particular place in the context of Rangers history and in the context of Scottish football history.
Would it have changed many votes if Rangers did win the Europa and won the Scottish Cup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think
it's a shoe-in.
Yeah, I think
if Giovanni van Bronckhorst wins the Europa League, you go here. There's the trophy.
I think that's the problem. Like when you have to decide
it's timing into it
midway through the season. If you wait to the end of the season when everyone disperses, it's very difficult to organise. So obviously you have to make the call before the season has run its course. But I think that's the issue that you do have, and I think it's a very unique season in that you could look at both clubs and say they've both had successful campaigns. Even if Rangers don't win it, I think you would have to say to get to a European final as a Scottish club, when you look at how many out with the cartel of the big five, if you like, go on to do that, I think you have to see it as a modern rags to riches tale, I think, for any Scottish club to go and compete and get to that environment. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's a fantastic achievement. As far as winning the title, you can do it up at Tannadice on Wednesday, Celtic, with one more point needed. They will obviously start to look at the squad. We talked about the players that might want to stay. You can give us your thoughts on that. I'm going to read this one out because obviously Near Beaton, it's been rumoured that he could be heading back home. There'll be a few others that might think there'll be surplus to requirements at Celtic as well. I think maybe the boy Welsh might want to get regular football elsewhere. Somebody suggested to me even James Forrest might look at it, but I think he might hold on to James Forrest.
Difficult one. I think James Forrest will want to play at his age. I think you want to play football.
McCarthy
signed him on a 4-year deal, so I think if I'm James McCarthy, I'll be sitting tight unless there's some sort of financial agreement to leave. I don't think he'll be in a rush to leave. James Forrest, does he want to play every week? If not, I think he's quite comfortable to be a squad player. So there is quite a number. I think Celtic need to strengthen. They need to strengthen the squad. As I said the other day, I think they've got 12 or 13 really, really good players. But I think you need 18 to 20, particularly if you're going into Champions League group stages. You need to strengthen your squad, because you're going to be playing, 3 times a week. You're going to be playing high intensity games against quality opposition, and you need to be able to rest players. You can't just go with 12, 13. So Celtic need to, strengthen the overall squad, and I think they'll do that. They'll get 4 or 5 out, and I think they'll bring 4 or 5 in.
Yeah, and telling players that they're surplus to requirements is always difficult, but I think it's going to be really difficult for us this week. Very, very, I think, uncomfortable to be sitting here on the chair when Ruffy's team have released Richard Foster. Where do we do, Ruffy? What do we say to them?
You're talking about backstabbing earlier. Well, what it all sits beside him on the couch as well.
I know. What do we do, Ruffy? Do we just? Tam and I are like this, just moving uneasily. And
well, maybe Richard could enlighten us how the conversation went between him and the manager.
Oh, there you go, eh?
I don't know.
You don't know, right?
Richard. What did Richard say last week? You actually asked him, do you think you'll be there next year? And I don't think he gave you a definitive, did he?
No. I'm sure someday. I don't think he'll hang up the boots, to be honest with you. I think if he can get clear of some of the niggling injuries, Ali, you never know, he might just think to himself, I've got another year in me anyway.
Yep, I think he'll be reluctant to give it up. I think he would be a valuable addition at a certain level. I think he still is capable of doing a job for someone.
Yeah, absolutely. But
he's just going the road with his wife.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing.
And travel the world.
Listening to her albums, I would definitely go on the road and listen to her sing every day of the week. But just uncomfortable. You just got to thank your lucky stars that Ruffy's not in charge at PLZ, because it would just be like, just gone.
Oh,
1 minute, 1 minute you're on the chair.
I've been released more times than last Christmas.
Absolutely.
I know the feeling, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, there's just before we go to Andrew Shiney, I'm looking forward to talking to Andrew. there was no great fanfare about it, but Scott Brown announced that he was hanging up his boots. Didn't quite work out the way he wanted at Aberdeen, but I think when he looks back over his career, the caps, the trophies, he can hold his head up high.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd probably have wanted to go out still playing at a decent level. I think he'll probably be disappointed with the way that the season ended for him. Be interesting now. I think you would envisage that a coaching role maybe comes next for him. Now I think with all that experience, you would think he might want to stay and have some kind of influence within the game. I think he's always had leadership qualities that were evident on the pitch. It's where they transfer to now. But yeah, I thought it was quite a low-key announcement, but not a great surprise either.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you look back over the 20 years, it's trophy-laden, and I think he will go down in Celtic's history as a legendary captain, Robbie.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think you have to look at the records. The cups, the medals, what he did for the club, and it's one of the ones where I don't think going to Aberdeen was a good move. I've never been convinced it was a good move. I thought he should have hung about and somebody should have offered him something at Celtic, but I don't know what kind of position he's looking for to start with. I don't know. Don't want to go if you're Scott Brown doing under 18s or under 17s or anything like that. So it'd have to be some kind of coaching job, and I don't know if there's anybody in the game now that springs to mind that would offer him, a coach, with the first team or whatever. I don't think in
the Premiership. I think some people have been stung by it. Certainly, Hibs are not going to look at it. There were suggestions of Kevin Thompson and Scott Brown as a partnership, but I think the way things are going now, I've even heard that Hibs might look to the likes of Derek McInnes. They're looking for experience.
Yeah, I just don't think that Hibs can afford to muck this one up now. I say muck this one up in the relative terms because I genuinely don't think they gave Sean Maloney enough time, but they've got to go with an experienced manager and give him time. Got to give him 2 or 3 windows, to get his stamp on the team. You've got to give people have patience with managers. And if Derek McInnes comes in, listen, I think a lot of Hibs supporters wouldn't be happy with that, but I think the Hibs supporters are quite hard to please. I think they want to play a certain way and they want to win, so, and that's a tough thing to get, to marry the both. I think only guys like Pep Guardiola can do the both of them. So I think you've got to get a steady pair of hands in there, whether that's Derek McInnes or whoever. The Hibs supporters have got to get behind him. But getting back to Scott Brown, I think he'll be in a management job in the summer.
Okay.
He's from Fife, so maybe somewhere in that region.
Okay, so the new Dunfermline manager will be Scott Brown. You heard it here first. It's something like that from.
They've got a manager.
Scour the Fife area. Yogi might step down. There's definitely got Wraith Rovers. Wraith Rovers, wow, there you are.
Didn't say that, did I?
Okay, the Fife area, Wraith Rovers. New Scott Brown. What do you make of the new job he's getting at Wraith Rovers?
I thought he was going to go to Australia. I thought he was going to go to Australia.
Ruffy, I'll tell
He's
you.
not going to Australia.
Was it a gag? Was it a gag there?
Don't worry, I'll tell you on Thursday. I'm going to be with him on Thursday. I'll just ask him, are you going to be the new Wraith Rovers manager? Is that fair? Right. Anyway, apart from anything else, well done to Craig Gordon. He played yesterday. Does his usual. Makes 3 or 4 fantastic saves. Didn't quite work out the way he wanted, but I thought he spoke well at the Football Writers last night as well. Picked up his award. 3rd time. Not many people do that.
Yeah, an interesting aside too, and he was saying he would hope to be back for a 4th with the entirety of the Scottish team if they had to go and qualify for a World Cup, which I think everyone would warmly welcome. But yeah, I thought he spoke very well. I think he's had an excellent campaign throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely, and he could end up with a Scottish Cup winners medal again with Hearts, which would be an incredible end to the season for him. Of course, Robbie Neilson, they've had a great season. Could be an even better season, as Robbie Neilson puts it. But even after all that, after the game at Celtic Park, he still wanted to moan about the fact he lost it to 2 dodgy decisions.
That's a free kick, to be honest. I've seen it again. Pretty sure you've seen it. These key decisions when you come here, you've got to get them. That was a disappointment for the ref. But, I thought it was a pretty simple one to get, and he doesn't get it right. The second one for the goal, it's the right decision. It's real borderline, but it's the right one. So both goals have went. One he's got wrong, one he's got right.
Yep, like Robbie, always tells you exactly what he thinks at the end of the games. Unfortunately, sometimes it hits him in the pocket, but after the game, not too happy with it. But I think he'll be happy overall. Hearts comfortably in third, looking towards Hampden in the Scottish Cup final. Can they upset the apple cart against Rangers? Only time will tell. We'll be covering that as well. Interestingly enough, Jamie Walker has left the club permanent deal with English side Bradford City. And so on to Hibs against Aberdeen. 1-1 it finished, and what did you make of it, Tam?
First and foremost, it was great to meet Andrew before the game. Had a chat to him. It was good to see him after just speaking to him for about a year on the TV. But getting to the game, first half, not a lot in it. Bobby Madden, I don't think you've probably seen it, the decision at the edge of the box. I was flabbergasted. I thought he'd given the free kick to Hibs initially, and I thought it might have been a penalty to Aberdeen, to be honest. I thought it was a very high tackle. Yeah. And then he totally reversed it, and then he went the other way. He had a poor game. First half, nothing much in Aberdeen, probably slightly better. Then Aberdeen got their noses in front, and I thought, here we go again, 1-0. Hibs are never going to score. But to be fair to Hibs, the last 20 minutes they played well. They put Aberdeen under pressure, they put crosses in the box. They made Aberdeen defend. You know, an Aberdeen that is definitely soft-centred, and they got the equaliser through Paul McGinn, and should have won it at the end. I think Joe Lewis had two great saves. Hibs are really pushing. Another 5 minutes, I think they would have won the game, and I think that was encouraging for the manager, David Gray, that the team kept going. They never chucked it at 1-0. And listen, the fans gave them applauded them off the pitch, which doesn't happen too many times at Easter Road after a draw. So, no, I thought a draw was a fair result. Aberdeen have got a lot of work to do, but then so have Hibs.
Yeah, and over and above that, when you look at this Aberdeen side, it's going to change drastically, that's for certain. Jim Goodwin says a lot of faces will be heading out the door.
I picked the starting 11 who are all under contract for next season. A number of the 9 subs, 6 of them I think have been already told that they're either not getting an offer or are surplus to requirements. So with that, there's always a little bit of a tension and frustration maybe within the group.
Yeah, Andrew Shiney joins us now. Andrew, Jim Goodwin is wielding the axe. I think he'll be even more ruthless as we finally get the 2 games out of the way, and then it's all change at Pittodrie.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive turnaround, and I would just echo everything that Tam said about the game. A draw was the best result, and for me the highlight of the day was to get to meet Tam. So that tells you everything, doesn't it? 2 identical sides, lacking in confidence, not looking likely to score. 2 identical goals, cross in from the left-hand side, lay off at the far post, and a defender scoring. But, an awful lot of work for both sides to do if they're going to get up to the part of the table that they really aspire to, because this season's just been a write-off for both clubs.
Yeah, and Ruffy, if Andrew Shiney is saying the highlight of going to Easter Road was getting to meet Tam McManus, it tells you how bad the season's been for Andrew Shiney. He doesn't get out much. Just seeing somebody and chatting to somebody like Tam, and we've seen his after dinner act. I mean, it's worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, well, rumour has it Andrew saw Tam coming near him and he tried to hide in the stands somewhere. Unfortunately, Tam found him. To get back to the game, I only saw the highlights, and it's the first time ever that I've seen it on the telly when the first half comes on and it lasted 5 seconds and all of a sudden it was the second half and I went, there was nothing happening. That just shows you how poor it was.
Isn't it amazing though, Alison, that Andrew Shiney has told us about the game, Tam McManus has told us about Bobby Madden and his performance, and there's not a call for an investigation and a full back page spread on Bobby Madden's allegiance in this game.
I don't know where you're going with this. But, I think there are certain games that invite a microscopic focus and others that don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Andrew, last night I watched a young man stand on the stage at the Football Writers, pick up the Young Player of the Year in Calvin Ramsey. He spoke very well, was articulate, thanked the appropriate people, and he has a bright future, sadly, out with Aberdeen.
Yeah, I think everybody's accepted now that Calvin is going to be heading down south. I've seen him for 2 or 3 years coming up through the age groups. A lovely guy. The sky's the limit for him as a player. He's still got a lot to learn, but I think he will be moving south, and I think it was interesting that he didn't feature in the Aberdeen squad at all on Saturday, and I don't think we'll see him in a red shirt again unless he moves somewhere down south and the club feels that it would benefit his further development by playing first team football in Scotland, possibly with Aberdeen for another season perhaps. That is something that I'm sure will be getting looked at, but I think Calvin Ramsey is definitely on the move and thoroughly deserves a chance to really climb the football ladder very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. What type of players are you hoping Jim Goodwin brings into that club? Because there's a few players will be heading out. Some of them are ageing players. Some of them just not good enough to wear that Aberdeen shirt. What kind of team would you like to see built there?
Well, I mean, at the start of the season, we were getting promised that we were going to see fast attacking football. And we did see it for a couple of weeks in Europe. But then you have to take account of the quality of the opposition. Unfortunately, domestically, we have never really had any sort of consistency other than poor results. So I think you need to get a little bit more invention into the team. Jim Goodwin has said that he wants younger players. He wants a group between sort of 23 and 28, which he feels is lacking at Pittodrie at the moment. He did say that 6 of the 9 subs are not going to be there next season. Well, Terry Jenks and Adam Montgomery will leave when their loan spells finish. Andy Considine is going, as is Michael Ruth, and I think Dylan McGeoch and Funso Ojo will leave as well. So you're needing to get a couple of really innovative, inventive midfielders in. I think you need 2 strikers because I have a feeling that Christian Ramirez's days in Aberdeen are numbered, and Marley Watkins struggles to shake off injuries, and he's in that sort of older age group of player. You're looking then to see what is there coming through the ranks. Now, Liam Harvey at 17 is the top scorer for the under-18 side, but he's not ready for first-team football yet. He may appear on the bench in the last couple of games, but he needs a lot more experience, and he needs somebody to play off. And just now, Aberdeen are really bereft in the forward positions. So I think we need to get strikers in, we need to get midfielders in, and with Andy Considine being jettisoned, you need another good, solid centre-back. Gallagher and Bates had their moments on Saturday where they defended well, but I think they still don't quite dovetail together the way you'd want to. So there's a lot of work to be done, but you've got to get winners in. You've got to get people with the right mentality. And I think there's a notion that goes around which probably, has got a bit of credence to it, that Aberdeen are a bit soft. You need 11 Ross McCrorys or Scott Browns. You need that type of character to come in there. But that's going to cost a lot of money, or you've got to be extremely lucky in the free transfer and out of contract market.
Yeah, absolutely. Always good to hear the thoughts of Andrew Shiney. What we also need for Andrew is to get back down here to the west and meet you, Ruffy, and just sample somebody a wee bit more, with a wee bit more character than Tam. Just to show, Andrew, that there's more to the PLZ team than just Tam at Easter Road.
Well, there was one stage of the season when I was going to meet Andrew, probably in the Championship, but they got their act together.
You're absolutely
Is that why
right.
you tried to stay in the Championship, just so that you could meet us, and you didn't really push hard to get up the Prem?
Yeah. Andrew, you are 100% correct, by the way. Ruffy thinking to himself he was even maybe going to go to the Premiership, but there was a period there, what will we call it, March, where they just absolutely caved in. Thanks to Andrew Shiney, brilliant to hear from him. And obviously next week we'll get a chance to speak to Andrew as the season comes to a close for Aberdeen, and we'll get his overall overview of what has been a poor season for them. That's Aberdeen and Hibs. St Mirren 2, Dundee 0. Our old man Charlie, what a pass it was for St Mirren's goal, wasn't it?
I actually don't think he could believe it himself, what he had done. You know, I don't know what he was thinking. I'm dying to ask him what he was thinking. You know, what was the goalkeeper supposed to do with
Have
that?
a look at his betting accounts. I think that boy Green first goal, £100.
I mean, it's the most mad pass of all time, isn't it?
It is, you know, and you could see right away once he'd done it, he knew what he'd done, and what a pivotal part of that game, because Dundee again had chances to score goals, you know, and then like, you get somebody a goal in 4 minutes. I mean, what chance have you got?
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see what he says.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, nothing to play for. Dundee know the trapdoor is open. They'll be heading down to the Championship. That'll be all but confirmed. Mark McGee just is asking the players to play for a bit of pride.
Well, we've got to play for our pride. We've got to, you know, be professional, turn up properly, roll up their sleeves, and do all the things that they have been doing until mostly till today. And just show the supporters that do decide to come on Tuesday night that they care.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruffy just having a wee chat there with Alison. Alison worried for Ruffy's health.
We'll tell him what the chat is about. Well, what actually is Ruffy's belly keeps rumbling every
do you know
VT.
why? Do you know why?
And Alison fears that you're going to explode out of one sort of orifice.
Fitness nutrition freak told me you've got to drink 2 litres of water a day.
Yes.
And I've been trying to do that, and it's obviously not agreeing with my stomach.
It's not a good. It's not a good thing, because you know that near enough any time between 4:30 and 20 to 5, your stomach rumbles every week, every day. It's incredible. I've never witnessed anything like it. I just wonder, do you think Mark McGee will be there next season?
I would be hugely surprised if he was there next season. I think it's been a very poor appointment.
Yeah.
You've got to give the Dundee players some credit, but they seem determined that Mark's never going to take his clothes off and win a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair play to them for that, for the whole of the country.
Yeah, I think Ross County, Motherwell, it was a crucial goal for Motherwell to get the win. Motherwell have just steadied the ship a wee bit, because I think there was a lot of rumblings about Graham Alexander, Tom.
Yeah, there was. They were in a terrible run. I mean, they've somehow sneaked into the top 6. So that was a big result for them. You know, it still gives them an outside opportunity to get into Europe. And you know, Van Veen's been excellent for them this season. I think he's a player of a good standard. You know, on his day he's a handful. He scored the penalty kick, but I think the star of the show has got to be the goalkeeper, Liam Kelly. I thought he was outstanding. You know, he's capable of pulling off really top draw saves, and he done it 3 or 4 times at the weekend. And for me, won Motherwell that game. I know they scored the penalty, but his individual performance, certainly got them with 3 points. Yeah,
Livingston won, St Johnstone won. St Johnstone have battled away to try their best to get away even from the playoff place, but in the end that's what they're going to be facing. Are they the best of what's on offer? And bearing in mind, Ruffy, this week as we're looking at it, Inverness, Caledonian and Thistle against Arbroath, Dundee take on Hibernian in the league tomorrow. But that Inverness, Cali, Thistle, Arbroath game, are any of those 2 teams better than St Johnstone?
I don't know if they're better, but they'll certainly compete, and St Johnstone will have to beat their best to beat them. I think what Callum Davison will be trying to do is trying to get maybe a couple of wins getting into their games. You know, you don't want to be getting into their games in the back of 2 defeats, because whoever, if it's Arbroath or Inverness, and they're obviously getting into the game high because they've got there, so that could be positive for them. I really can't decide between. I think Inverness have probably got that wee run at the right time, where Arbroath a really terrific season, but they looked a wee bit tired near the end, so it's going to be interesting tomorrow night.
Yeah, see, you've got to say, but it's heavily stacked in favour of the Premiership
6
team.
Games.
Yeah. I mean, I look at Inverness. I actually fancy Inverness strongly to beat Arbroath. I think Inverness will get into the final, but then they've got to play another 2 games, and that'll be 6 games within about a 2-week period of high intensity. Very difficult for them to go and beat St Johnstone.
Anybody has been promoted from 3rd or 4th position in the Championship.
That's a good start.
Nobody's really jumped right up and beat the team
after playing 6 games. You mean? Yeah.
Hamilton Accies maybe.
It's well worth a wee look. Actually, I'll go and have a look at that, Ruffy. Try when you. No. I always.
We don't believe anything he says.
I always like you, if you're going to come up with something like that, you'll do a bit of research to actually back up your line.
It did sound good.
But it did sound good. Here's the table, Ali. The Premiership, which again, at the bottom end of it, it's got that familiar look. I thought there was a wee moment when maybe Dundee were going to rally the troops, but there was just those 3 draws that killed them off in the end. So it's St Johnstone, I think, that'll be looking to that playoff and wondering, what they're going to do, what the future holds for them, which I still think is incredible, bearing in mind they were double cup winners last season.
Yeah, what a fall from grace, really. It's just a sobering wake-up call in the season that comes after it. I think they'll be relieved that they're maybe not in that automatic relegation spot, but I think it's still a fraught finale for them.
Thank God they stuck by their manager. What a lesson in people in the boardroom who've got a steady hand.
Absolutely. I think though Callum Davidson might fancy that this time last year when his stock was so high and other jobs came up. I think there's a lesson there too that when your ticket's hot that you maybe cash in on it.
You've
Callum Davidson, Hibs.
No, don't be silly. No, I can't see that. Tom? I know exactly the look on your face. Listen, let's go to. Well, I think his stock at the moment is not where it was a year ago, as Ali just mentioned.
A poor season.
Listen, talk about comments, predictions. Thanks to so many of you who've given us over the course of this season, and there's lots more to come on YouTube on PLZ Soccer. There's one-to-ones. There'll be lots more shows all the way through to the Champions League final. Hopefully you'll stick with us for that, and we'll be looking at the end of the season and the Scottish Cup final, as well as the Europa League final with Rangers. So many great nights ahead to discuss on the programme. You can give us your view on it. You can also tell us how you're getting to Seville if you're a Rangers fan. Trains, planes and automobiles is how it's all been summed up. So tell us how you're getting there. Have you got a ticket? Are you looking forward to it? Who's going to win? What's going to be the score on that one? And what do you make of Eintracht Frankfurt? So many questions for that one. It's just an absolutely fantastic final to look forward to. And as Alison mentioned there as well, for a Scottish club to be in a European final, it certainly again has raised the bar. So it's great to see, and we will find out if Rangers can take that extra step. I still think, and I maintain it just before we look at the predictors table for ourselves, Robbie, I still think this is going to be a special time. I think Rangers can win it.
Yeah, I was looking at the German league table this morning, and they're not in a happy place. So I know they're in the final.
Yeah, but I think they've blown the league in their mind out.
Aye, but they were never ever up there with Borussia or Leipzig. They were never ever.
Lost a game in Europe this season.
Yeah, no, but they're not winning in the league. And we saw what Rangers are doing in the league.
But they're not the first team, Ruffy, to just turn around and go, listen, to hell with the league. This is your goal, this is your aim. They're not the first side to do that. I think Rangers can win because of their fantastic performances. But, it's not the first European side, Ali, that's gone to hell with the league. This is what we can do here. If we win this, we're in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think there would be a danger in looking at their league position and then underestimating them going into the final. I think, Rangers knew what they were going to get from Leipzig. They knew what they would get from Dortmund. I think you have to approach it with the same mentality, with the same philosophy. I think what you saw in those games was a verve and a courage about Rangers and how they played, how they went for the jugular. I think you would want to go in with the same kind of spirit into the final.
Yeah. Tom, you get that feeling?
I haven't really.
Have you got the feeling they can win it?
I haven't all season had the feeling that Rangers could win it, but performance against Leipzig now leads me to believe that they can. Not only can they win it, I think they will win it. I think they've beat better teams in Europe, and I think if they go and they put in a level of performance that they have against Leipzig and against Dortmund, then I think they'll win it. But it's on the night. Keep players sent off, penalties, whatever. It's a one-off game, and both teams will fancy it. But if Rangers can put in the same performance they did against Leipzig, I can't see past them.
Yeah, okay. We've been predicting all season the games in the Scottish Premiership. At the end of this season, the loser, the person at the bottom, will be taking the other 5 participants out for an all expenses paid meal with drinks that we decide are fit for a meal of that occasion. And it's going to be a humdinger of a night, Ruffy. And I think Tam Cowan, as you can see by the predictor table, looks as if he's the man who I think is at the bottom end of it, who looks as if he's just accepted that he's going to be taking us all out.
Yeah, I think he's resigned. He's unfortunately for us, he's obviously a restaurant critic. So you would expect of all the restaurants he's been to, he's going to pick a really, really nice one, and I'm sure he will, because he's that kind of guy, you know. But I don't think you've told him his drinks as well. I think he thinks it's just the food.
He'll get it free somewhere. Surely putting his Instagram or something and give them a bit of publicity.
Oh,
Well, at the end of the day, I think he's going to pull out a good restaurant. Alison, I'm looking at yours. You're on 309, and Ruffy and I are on 300. So there's only 9 points in it with 50 to play, this is a huge week for you, Ali.
Peter, you've been playing your games all season.
He has,
Yeah.
he has.
But we're now in a
Not matter Jota. Alison's tunnel vision.
We're now in a situation where everybody is submitting their 5 scores separately, which has allowed us to now reel you in and stop you from doing your usual.
I think I extended my lead. I think I had a 5-point lead, which just has become a 9-point lead. So I think I could undermine your argument there.
Are you going to win it?
I think I'd be comfortable in saying I just have to cross the line.
Ali Postecoglou there.
You can bust through the line or you can stagger. But it doesn't matter.
Tam, you're just happy that you're away from it.
How many points is he ahead of Tam?
What?
Many points is
17.
Tam Cowan is on 259 and Tam's away ahead of him.
17 points ahead, but the thing was,
you're 15 points ahead.
Is that something like, I don't know, it's 15 or 17, but the thing is,
he got 2 from Rangers. 17.
A wee 10 points.
No.
A wee 10 points
17
swing.
points.
I am 17 because Tam went 0-0 yesterday.
Yeah.
A wee 10 point swing in midweek.
No, but I didn't know what Tam's scores were on Saturday, and I thought, I've not had a great Saturday.
Yeah.
I thought he was a certainty to put Motherwell to win 1-0.
Yes.
And then when Cheryl's been no well, she texted me yesterday and said, we went for 6 0-0s, they get 3 points or something. I was like,
Yeah. The thing about it is, I would have loved for you to have been in last place, if only to see...
your meal would have been terrible, it would have been cheap as anything.
No, but if only to hear you try and explain it to your wife, who would not have been happy about it, because she's...
£200, it's a £20 set per person.
she's in control in that relationship. Anyway, apart from anything else, we're certainly enjoying the old predictor and looking forward to the end of season. And next season, Robbie, I think we're going to try and involve all the viewers in it as well, with some prizes.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, obviously we've not spoke about it yet, but I think a different listener every week, and then there'll be the collective of all the listeners at the end of the season predicting.
Yeah, I'll get you to monitor that, and you can do that.
One person.
Yeah.
One person.
No, I think if we offer somebody the incentive of a prize every week from all the people who are in it, if you get to a situation where you had a whole wad of people who managed to get, let's just say somebody got 5 scores correct or 6 scores correct, they get 30 points. If they got 28, if everybody on 28 points, you pick one out and they win a prize. It's well worth it for having a go at it. So we'll stay on top of that. Down south, if you were watching some of the football, Manchester City absolutely battered Newcastle, and it's going to take something strange to happen to Manchester City for Liverpool to win the league, sadly for me. But nevertheless, Pep Guardiola came out with that classic line, everybody wants Liverpool to win it, they don't want Man City to win it.
I mean, it's a mind game starting now. I think I was surprised. I think there was only game that I could see Liverpool dropping points was Spurs at home, because Spurs have beat Man City twice this season. You know, they're a good side. He's a top manager, Conte. They've got good players, and I thought the goal they scored was a fantastic goal from Spurs. I thought Klopp was a little bit disappointed with his comments after the games. That's not the way I would play if you're playing fifth. You want to play to win and all that, but I think it's just pressure, and I think that Man City have now got that league wrapped up. I don't see them drop many more points.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it amazing, Ali? Not a mention of Manchester United. I mean, they are so far out of it and hammered by Brighton. I mean, I could not believe the manner of defeat. It was just... It's an indicative of the car crash that's going on behind the scenes.
It's a season in microcosm, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they're just desperate to get to the end of the campaign and get to the summer. New manager come in, and I think you'll see a huge clear out of players. I think you'll see significant numbers go out, and quite significant too will be who comes in.
Yeah, anyway, just before we go, Tam, Edinburgh City play Annan Athletic in the League One playoff final. How do you see that going?
Well, I think it was a bit of a shocker, to be honest, that Edinburgh beat Dumbarton. You'd have fancied Dumbarton to beat Edinburgh, but great result for Edinburgh. Edinburgh City, Alan Mabry's went in there and he's getting a tune out of them. So it's a difficult one to call. I think Annan finished above them in the league, so I would just go for Annan, but I think it'll be a tight tie between the two.
Yeah, and then of course we've got a full card. Dundee Hibs is taking place tomorrow. We'll look at that game in detail, and then on Wednesday you've got Dundee United against Celtic, Motherwell Hearts, Rangers Ross County, St Johnstone against Aberdeen, and St Mirren against Livingston. So we'll be discussing them and hearing from managers and players involved in those games as the Scottish Premiership reaches its climax. Will the Celtic fans be heading up to Tannadice to celebrate a title win, or will they, as Robbie suggested, maybe wait to get 50, 60,000 at 60,000 at Celtic Park, I beg your pardon, to celebrate that. It's a huge couple of weeks coming up in Scottish football, not only domestically but in European competition as well. We're going to be talking about it constantly, and we'll be giving away a few more prizes as well. George Laurie is one of the happiest. He won our Gio Thompson Artist Prize. Gio was going to paint your favourite player, and George picked Kenny Dalglish, so he's going to have a painting of Kenny Dalglish up on his wall. As soon as it's finished, we'll show you the finished article, and then we'll tell you about some more fantastic prizes that you can win here on PLZ Soccer. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us with that, and if you download the app, you can watch the programme on your phone every day or your iPad, and if you miss it, it's got all the breaking football stories on there, and you can watch previous shows. And there's also managers' interviews and players' interviews as well. So much for you to enjoy, all at your fingertips. It's been a great show. Thank you to you for contributing. Yesterday, I'll give a mention just before we go to Matthew King, who was 13 seasons one of the top goal scorers at Musselburgh Athletic. Tam and I went through to Musselburgh to pay tribute to him. We had a great day. I've never witnessed a testimonial for a player where practically the entire audience walked in, Ruffy, some were wearing shorts, but some were wearing trousers, and they were all wearing white trainers. It was almost as if a lorry had stopped in Musselburgh and somebody had broken in and stolen. The entire young team were all wearing white trainers, and lo and behold, Bonzo's here today. He must have bought a set there yesterday.
They might be inspired ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll not be able to do that next year when we sign the deal that stops you from actually naming your mate's clothing industry. But only time will tell. Well done to Matthew, who had a testimonial yesterday. And
well done for you for batting them after these interviews.
Well, absolutely. I did have a chat with him, and probably one of the dullest people ever to be given a testimonial, to be honest with you. But he scores goals. Even dull people can score in the penalty box. Just ask Tam. Thanks to Tam, thanks to Robbie, thanks to Alison, and thanks to you for watching.